Let's jump right into this explainer. If you're working a modern enterprise, you absolutely know the drill. You sit down at your desk, and before you've even had a sip of your morning coffee, bam, you're hit with the daily chaos. Your work isn't just in one neat little place, right? It's scattered to the wind across Jira, Slack, Confluence, GitHub, your email. It's everywhere. Well, today, we're diving into a breakdown of a brilliant solution designed to cure this exact system fragmentation. It's called Max's EA, and it's built to quite literally give the modern worker their sanity back.
It's a slightly painful question to ask yourself, isn't it? But seriously, take a second and think about your day-to-day. Do you ever feel like your actual job description has slowly morphed into just manually connecting the dots across half a dozen different software platforms? You pull a status from Jira, you paste it into a Slack thread, summarize that in an email, and then go update a Confluence page. Without even realizing it, you aren't doing your core work anymore. You've just become a human integration layer for your company's tech stack.
So here's our game plan for today. First, we'll define this integration fatigue, then contrast builders versus operators. Next, we'll introduce Max's EA and its foundational pillars, take a quick peek under the hood at its architecture, and finally, map out its limitations and future roadmap.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Integration Fatigue, the Enterprise Problem.
Every single day, enterprise environments launch new integration points, new tools, new protocols. It is physically impossible for any one person to keep up. The staggering result of all this, in massive environments, think like a 150,000 person organization, employees are wasting 40% of their energy just collecting scattered signals. 40%! Just reconciling contradictions between systems or trying to decipher some 50-message Slack thread where everyone agrees but absolutely nobody actually takes action. Think about that for a second. Nearly half of your mental energy is burned just figuring out what's going on, leaving you with barely any brainpower for the job you were actually hired to do.
Because let's face the reality here. When a manager logs on and sees 20 open browser tabs, they don't want to sit there and engineer a clever AI prompt. They don't want to build a custom agent. They just have immediate pressing questions like, what changed while I was asleep? What do I owe? And who exactly is blocking me? If your productivity tools can't answer those specific urgent questions without making you jump through a 10-step manual process, honestly, they aren't actually helping you.
Moving on to Section 2, Builders versus Operators. Who exactly are we building for?
This brings us to a really crucial dichotomy in how the tech industry is currently designing AI tools. We seem to have a fundamental misunderstanding of who the end user actually is. The contrast here is super important. On one side, we have builders. Tools like Codex are absolute masterpieces for them. It's like a limitless workshop for prototyping, connecting APIs, and creating things from scratch. But on the flip side, we have operators. An operator is someone like a technical program manager who is reconciling status or a manager tracking follow-ups. They don't want a workshop. They desperately need a personal command center to just execute their daily work.
There's this fantastic quote from Max Xiao, the architect behind Max's EA, that completely reframes the conversation around enterprise AI. He says, for these users, a blank prompt box isn't a feature, it's a burden. That hits the nail on the head, right? An Ask Me Anything interface is exactly the wrong solution for an operator who is already dealing with massive decision fatigue. The winning experience isn't Ask Me Anything. The winning experience is, hey, here's what matters right now, and here is exactly what you should do next.
Which leads perfectly into Section 3, introducing Max's EA as the intelligent layer.
Now that we deeply understand the friction, let's look at the solution, Max's EA. EA stands for Executive Assistant, but don't get it twisted, this is not just another generic chatbot. It's a personal edge console for enterprise AI. Basically, it acts as an intelligent discovery layer. It sits locally right above your existing systems of record, like Jira and Outlook, and turns all those scattered, incredibly noisy signals into one single, prioritized daily operating queue. It intelligently discovers context and suggests what you need to do, without just creating yet another inbox that you have to stress over checking.
This all builds into a true systems-first operating model. Here's how it flows. It starts at the edge with your personal signal. Then, Max's EA discovers the context, so maybe it recognizes you're reviewing a budget and proactively offers to pull in a new financial database integration. That discovery leads to a goal path action. Think of goal path as the execution engine that triggers a governed enterprise process. This is huge because it means the action passes through enterprise guardrails before it ever writes to any system, and finally, it handles the follow-up. It perfectly bridges the gap between your personal edge intelligence and governed, secure core execution. All right, let's shift gears to Section 4, Pillars and Principles, Building Trust.
Max's EA is built on 5 core functional pillars. First, it summarizes to distill all that corporate noise into actionable signals. Second, it consolidates your scattered context into one unified view. Third, it suggests high-probability next steps based on what you're actively working on right then. Fourth, it tracks. You know those dropped contexts and stale follow-ups that usually just disappear into the void? It catches those. And finally, it reports, which automates that mundane task of constant communication by turning your executions into clean, formatted status updates.
Now, because trust is the absolute core feature of any workflow tool, this system relies on some very strict guiding principles. Source truth first means it never pretends stale data is current. And notice the read-only by default principle. This system is conservative. It's not going to go rogue and send an email or update a ticket unless you explicitly tell it to. It has to earn write access. Plus, it makes source health highly visible. If a connector to Jira fails, the dashboard tells you upfront. It doesn't try to hide behind a polished AI hallucination.
Let's get a little technical now in Section 5, Architecture Details. We're looking under the hood.
The setup here is intentionally local and highly inspectable. On the front end, you've got a React single-page application with focused, tabbed workspaces for actions, knowledge, and news. But the real magic happens on the back end. It's an Express server managing local state. Instead of acting like a browser with 50 tabs open and it silently drains every ounce of your computer's memory, it uses an explicit pull sync. It reaches out, pulls source-backed signals, and normalizes incredibly diverse data, whether that's an email, a Slack message, or a Jira ticket, into one common manageable action model. So, what does this actually look like to use? Here is the explicit workflow. You open the dashboard and immediately review source health, so right away you know exactly what's online. Then you inspect a source and the AI's suggested action. You can easily edit the response, and then you just hit submit or close. But pay attention to step 5. Choosing whether to feed the memory is a deliberate, conscious choice. Closing an action and teaching the system are completely separate operations. This ensures your knowledge bank only contains valuable, durable context, not just an automatic dumping ground for every tiny little task you completed that day. Bringing it home now with Section 6, Limitations and Roadmap. What's next?
To keep things grounded in reality, we have to be upfront about what this system currently can't do. It isn't magic. For starters, connectors are session-dependent. Also, stale data must be explicitly labeled so users don't accidentally make decisions based on outdated info. And most importantly, I cannot stress this enough, AI suggestions absolutely require human review. You remain fully responsible for the final output, especially when you're updating enterprise systems of record. Think of it as a personal operating tool, not a replacement for your own professional judgment.
But even with those limits, the future roadmap is incredibly exciting. In the near term, the team is focusing on visual clarity and testing enterprise integration rules. Moving into the midterm, we're going to see richer source evidence lookups and specific response templates, like having a dedicated format for Slack versus Outlook. And long-term, that's where it gets wild. Max's EA will evolve from a reactive queue into a truly proactive operating assistant. It will learn from your choices and actively support multi-day planning, helping you navigate complex stakeholder maps with safe, user-approved execution. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Take a look at the tools you are using every single day. Does your AI actually cure your fatigue, or is it just creating more noise? Does it help you make that next decision with the least amount of ambiguity possible? Max's EA proves that the most valuable AI isn't the one that generates the most text. It's the one that actually gives you back your clarity. So take a hard look at your own workflows and ask yourself, are you ready to stop being the integration layer